George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation. Now, you know that we celebrate people that we feel good about. And this Thursday, Juneteenth Day, June 19th, with all of the stuff going on Juneteenth Day. And I got a whole list for y'all, as you know. But we invite you to the Boys and Girls Club on East Fayette Street in Syracuse for the Jazz in the City, featuring our good friends from the Brown Skin Band. And one of the people that we have to thank for that particular concert is our very next guest. We're talking about community investment, transformation, and vision. And joining me is someone doing all three. He's an innovative developer, a national thought leader in equitable urban revitalization, and the new owners of Parkside Commons, right across the street from the Eastside Boys and Girls Club, 2100 East Fayette Street in Syracuse. We're pleased to be joined by Ernst Valery, co-managing member of SAA EVI, a firm known for building communities with intention and purpose. Ernst, welcome to Inspiration for the Nation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Looking forward to it. All right, so let's talk about, so when you got the call and you found out about this property on the east side of Syracuse being available, Parkside Commons, and you heard all about the reputation of Parkside Commons, you said, but I want that because I got a vision for it. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, our company and also our partners at BFC Partners, we're the joint venture partners taking on this challenge and really taking on the responsibility to serve, right? We see development. I'll give a bit of background on me. I grew up in New York, and I went to school in Central New York, down the street from Syracuse. I went to Cornell, and I studied urban planning and public policy and public affairs. So I approached development from that lens, the lens of how do we help marginalized communities thrive? Because there are geniuses in every zip code, right? And with every challenge, I think we have to take a step back and understand why are those challenges happening, and also understand that the vast majority of the people living in a challenged community, in a challenged project like that, are good folks that want what we all want, which is a great place to live and a place that they and then their kids in particular can thrive. And so that was the calling. The calling was, we felt as two companies that do this, we felt that we could help bring the best out of that property and bring the new life that it needs. There's physical things that are needed, but then there's also the community building and the placemaking that's needed, and it's all needed. It can't just be a money investment where you get the bricks and mortar to look right, but then you're not investing in the people. And so it needs it all, and that's something that we think we can bring to the table and will bring to the table, and we're going to do it in partnership. And that's why it's so important to be part of the larger community.
And so just a couple of things. So did you graduate from AAP at Cornell?
Oh, AAP, yep.
Come on now. Well, a quick sidebar. I have two Cornellians in my family. Both my daughters are class of 20. They'll kill me for this, but I'm giving it up. Class of 2021 and class of 2023. And the oldest one, the class of 21, first went into Cornell through AAP and ended up transferring out. But that was a school that she was accepted into.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. You have planners and community builders in your family.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And future lawyers as well. And so you talked about your being in a joint venture with BFC, but you're also the president and the co-managing member of SAA EVI. Tell us about those companies and then the joint venture with BFC.
Yeah, so SAA EVI is a company that is owned and run by my business partner and I. We met in grad school almost 23 years ago and have been partners in running this company for the last 15 years. And we've developed a lot. New York State in particular, Western New York and Central New York are very important to us. I'm from downstate, first New York City and then Nyack, New York. My business partner is from Buffalo, and we met in grad school. We both did our master's in real estate at Columbia, and we realized each other's talents because we ended up in a chase competition together while in school, and we were trying to build affordable housing in Rockland County for first responders. Rockland County is a place that's a great place to live along the Hudson River, but it's gotten so extremely unaffordable.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people and groups of people that are critical to our community that have suffered from that unaffordability are first responders, your firefighters, your EMS responders, and that's what we were trying to solve in 2003. So fast forward to 2025, I think we've done a lot of that. We've built new construction and preserve over 1,000 units. Actually, with the project that we're working on right now in the Bronx, over 3,000 units of affordable housing in the state of New York.
Oh, that's great. And so two more things. Where in the Bronx? I need to know that because that's where I grew up.
So in the Boston Road, 229th, over that way.
Okay, uptown. All right.
Uptown, yeah.
Okay, all right. And the second connection is the youngest daughter will be entering into Columbia in the fall. So you all up in my family, bro.
It's all the great schools in New York, Syracuse being one of those great schools that we admire. And, and I think there's something special about New York and how it educates its folks and the sense of responsibility that folks have going to these wonderful institutions in the state of New York. University of Buffalo being one of those schools.
Yeah, sure.
University of Rochester, RIT. You could just name it. Albany, Plattsburgh, Binghamton. New York is just special in that.
Yeah, what do they call it? Binghamton, the Ivy League of the SUNYs, right?
Yeah, well, University of Buffalo would contend that, and University at Albany would contend that as well.
Binghamton says we got the receipts. That's what they'll tell you.
They would tell you that, and they're right. They're all great institutions.
Yeah, it's so true. Talking with Ernst Valery, he's the new owner of Parkside Commons, and so it has a history, as I've alluded to before. But you say that you have plans to see this property become what it can be under your leadership, and how do you see that happening?
So again, our partners at BFC, they're wonderful developers as well out of Brooklyn and then in the state of New York. Our vision is how do we preserve affordability, but then how do we expand on that? How do we make it a mixed community, mixed use, mixed income? And how do we, give opportunity to the folks that are there that are dealing with, the majority of the challenges are brought there by a handful, right? And that's sort of like the negativity that we have to work together to eliminate. We have to hold people accountable. If a lot of times what often happens is something happens that's negative, whether someone bringing some type of negativity there, and that person doesn't actually live there.
Right.
That person is a visitor of some sort. So folks have to be held accountable for bringing visitors that bring that kind of negativity there. But I also think that the community needs to be more than just one. We're meeting people. One of the things we do this thing that's called the low-income housing tax credits, where it's like, okay, everyone should be able to live in a place where they pay less than 30% of their income towards housing. And so the LIHTC, which is the low-income housing tax credit program, it's kind of stipulated that anyone who makes less than 60% of median income would get an opportunity to live there. But then you start to think, how about the folks that make 30%, right? And then how about the folks that make 80%, 90%, and so we want to accommodate more than just one sort of type of income there.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a tremendous benefit to the community there as well.
And so we know that there was a recent incident in the neighborhood over there, and we're not trying to skirt around that. We're talking about what your plans are for the neighborhood, with not disrespecting the fact that we know that there was an incident, if you will, that happened in the neighborhood not long ago, and so I just want to be fair to our listeners that we're not dealing with that, but we're also talking about what is to come, right? And so you've had a strong reputation in other cities, Philadelphia, Baltimore. What do you say? Baltimore? No L? No
Baltimore.
T? Baltimore. Yeah, no T, right? And you say that, or at least your company has been really trying to balance what you just talked about. You want to make it not just a particular set of housing, but you want to attract other families as well, so that it's truly mixed income, and that's a value that you hold. Do you think that's really achievable?
It's always achievable. Some of the most healthy communities are the communities where everyone can be there, right? And we sort of got away from that because we thought, okay, we're going to solve the problem over there, right? And then, knowing and realizing or not realizing that it's not a problem to make lower income, right? If you're getting up and going to work, but we've got to value that. We've got to value and honor people that get up every day and go to work and do the right thing. They may come up short on income, but they deserve something quality. I mean, if you've ever walked into, and I'll send you some pictures, maybe you could share with your listeners. If you've ever walked into buildings that we've built new or rehabbed, the finishes, it's luxury finishes. And some people may say, well, those people don't deserve that. And we reject that kind of thinking. We think everyone should have something beautiful, and then everyone should live in dignity. And so we don't look at it as, well, this is just doing something to put a patch on the problem. We look at it as, how do we create these healthy communities where everyone is valued for the simple fact that they get up every day and they go to work and they want to raise their kids, and they don't want housing, right, to be an impediment towards reaching those goals, right? If you're paying 50%, 60% of your income, which a lot of people do, a lot of the middle class, right? You have people in New York City that are paying 60, 70% of their income. They don't really like that boyfriend or girlfriend, but they can't leave them because that's how they make rent. We don't want that type of situation. We want people to be able to have the space they need and to be able to raise their family and have the income they need to do other things other than pay for housing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's all right. So let me ask you the real question. The bottom line is that you are in business and you're trying to make a profit, right? And so, but you're also saying that you want to have an impact, especially in these historically disinvested communities. It sounds like you're trying to you want to make your money, but also have some another set of values as well.
I couldn't agree with that statement more. The one part about making money and developers making money, I think there's this misconception. I mean, look, so developers, I teach a class on real estate development, and there are a lot of developers that have earned somewhat of a negative reputation. But in order for something to work, to be sustainable, it has to make money. Yeah. So it's not a question, because you have a lot of nonprofits that own properties that are failing, and it's because they don't have that piece of it has to make money to be sustainable, right? Making money, and as a developer, making money is not about being greedy for us. At least for SAA, EVI, and BFC partners, making money is about sustainability, and making money is about being able to be good stewards and to be able to provide the things that a property needs. A lot of times, for instance, properties need security, sometimes additional security, right? And so when you're operating a property, if it doesn't make money, how do you cover that, right? Security is not going to come for free. This is just kind of talking about the issues directly. Right. So it doesn't make money. And then if you go through things where, there are movements, and, during COVID, we went through a cancel rent movement that was matched with a moratorium on evictions. So you basically had tenants that had a mindset that was encouraged to not pay rent. And then you had legislation that said, well, even if you don't pay, they can't kick you out, right? And, they can't hold you responsible for that. So the people that weren't paying, the 30-40% of the people that weren't paying, it was negatively affecting the property because it basically stopped the property from being able to do the things that it had to do, which was, maintain the building, provide security, and pay the staff to operate the building. So, you can't see these things in a vacuum. So like making money, I think the misconception is that, it's making money to enrich yourself and then not provide a product. A lot of times these properties operate at like a 1.15, 1.2 debt service coverage ratio. And then there's a lot of requirements for reserves. And so what 1.15 or 1.2 means is for every dollar the property needs to operate, it makes $1.20, right? Or $1.15. So there's just a little bit more. And then if you're doing reserves for replacing the roof and all those other things, it's really just operating at a 1.0. And especially affordable housing, it's not the same as, conventional market rate housing. We get paid a fee for providing that, for putting up the guarantees, right? If these projects aren't completed, someone can come and take your house. And so you would want to be paid a fee for doing something like that. So we get paid a fee, but it's not necessarily cash flow that motivates these projects. It's, the need of providing affordable housing. And then to be a good steward for the entire compliance period, you want to make sure that it makes money so that you can afford all the things that will be required to sustain the building. But we did go through COVID, and that was a very difficult time for housing because folks didn't pay and they weren't held accountable for it. There was no such movement called cancel mortgage. It was cancel rent.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, a lot of affordable housing is not provided by people like me, right? And places like New York City, affordable housing is provided by mom and pop, right? They own a 5-unit, they live in one, their kid lives in another unit, and they rent out the other 3 units. And when this movement came about, a lot of activists and folks that support housing, they thought they were going to hurt the J.P. Morgan Chases of the world because those guys held those mortgages and had the equity investments in these things. That couldn't be further from the truth. Those folks were able to ride through. The people that they hurt were the mom and pops that had no recourse. And I think, you're creating a bigger vacuum and a bigger issue when you basically, make housing, to punish the developer. You're going to make it where no one has to pay, but then who maintains? We went through some of these movements where we turned these things into co-ops and we said all these folks could own. Well, I love the idea of shared ownership, like where 100 people and 100 owners, but then when the lights go out, when there's work that needs to be done, the boiler goes out, no one's coming in for shared responsibility. They love shared ownership,
but not shared responsibility.
Not shared responsibility. And so that's the stuff that you have to balance. And I do believe, and there is room for shared ownership, but, folks have to get to that point where they've shown that, they would take on the responsibilities as well.
One of the things we're talking with Ernst Valery, new co-owners of Parkside Commons, and one of the things that I said owners, co-owners, how should I say it?
We're joint venture partners.
Joint
when
venture
we
partners.
venture with folks, it's a true partnership. We're all in it. So SAA, EVI, and BFC partners, we are joined at the hip, and we believe in the same thing. Yep.
So one of the concerns about we have a mayoral race that is the primary early voting starts, and the primary is next Tuesday, the 24th in Syracuse. And one of the top issues that comes up is affordable quality housing and the impact of that, and also the concern over gentrification in some of our areas. And so how does a project like this resist but also affirm what and you kind of just you kind of talked about that, but contextually making sure that folks who need to live there and can still live there while you're also trying to attract others to live there as well, so that it truly is the kind of community that you described earlier, where everybody gets up and goes to work, and we have everybody contributes to the economy of the community. I don't know if I took those words right, but to that, something to that effect.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I teach a class, and I currently teach this class. I used to teach it at Cornell, and I call the class Development Without Displacement, right? And then if you take out the word development and you say gentrification, it now says something about race, right? Back in the day, gentrification was the gentry moving in, right? It was the upwardly mobile folks that moved into a community, and that was not necessarily a negative thing, right? Because folks that are upwardly mobile, that have higher income, they bring about more resources, right? Because more stores want to come. Starbucks wants to come because they're like, okay, we'll make money here, and then everyone gets to benefit from that, right? But then we've turned it into really white-black thing. Like if we go into a community and we see really poor white hipsters.
Harlem.
Yeah, exactly. If we see poor white hipsters that are cool, but they're artists, we call that gentrification. And if we see, upwardly mobile Black folks with great jobs, we don't call that gentrification. But they are gentrifiers. They demand and they deserve product and resources just as much. And so the basis of this class is, how do we develop without
displacement?
Displacement. Because if you bifurcate the displacement aspect from gentrification, then it's actually not a bad thing. And so that's what we focus on. So coming into any project, not just Parkside, our goal is to make sure that everyone that's there now, everyone that's there legally and doing the right thing, getting up and going to work and not, committing crimes of any type, they get to stay in their homes. And beyond that, they get a better home. They get a home that has a new 20 plus year life. They get, all the trappings of like, I would say luxury, but I would say it's what everyone should have. They should have all these wonderful things in their homes. And then we want to make room to bring other people in. So we use density as a tool, right? To be able to say, okay, there were 300 units of just low-income housing. Can we build something that's 400 units of low-income housing, and then another 300 to 400 units of mixed-income housing, anywhere from 80 to 120% of median income, right? In a place like New York, you get that, right? Because you could live on a block that has affordable and and the notion of like, well,
a building has that, yeah,
a building has that. A building has that, and then you get negative developers that create a rich door and poor door, and that's when developers start to get a bad reputation, because that was, to me, appalling that someone would even think about doing something like that.
Yeah, and what you're describing is, in order to qualify for some of the tax credits in New York City and meet the demand for affordable housing requirements, what they would do is they would make the affordable housing, but then restrict access to those individuals who were being allowed into that building under those circumstances. So for the Parkside Commons development, when you start to rehab the interiors, will the people be able to stay there while that is happening, or do they have to? How is that going to work?
So we know the type of trauma that people deal with when they move, because a lot of times they've moved out of their homes and they've never been able to come back. So we recognize that trauma and we try to address it head on. One of the things that we do really well at our company is relocation. And so we try to 100% use the vacant units on site to relocate, right? And so we have what's called hospitality suites, and we basically will transfer your cable, we'll transfer your electric bill, or you won't have a second electric bill, and we'll pay the one in the apartment that you're in, and pay the new one as well for the 2 to 3 months that we're renovating your actual unit. And we'll
Wow.
take the building at a time or a floor at a time that's vacant. And so the process is not we're working on every unit at one time. We create a matrix, and it gets quite complicated because you're dealing with, math and, something that's very formulaic, but then you're also dealing with people's lives, right? And so we take account of, okay, what's best for the entire complex. And then we actually sit and talk to every individual family, and we start to understand what's best for that family. Someone may have a kid in school, and so it would be better if the renovation was taking place, during the summer, so that the kids are not disrupted during the school year. And so we kind of take those extra things into consideration as well, so that we could have, and the person on our team that does relocation, she is the most valuable player on the team, because, we're dealing with someone's life when you're moving them. And so, to answer your question directly, we try to keep people on site so that they know that they won't be displaced, or oh, oops, we can't bring you back type of thing.
I mean, it sounds great. You definitely sound like you got a conscience, my brother. You sound like you got a conscience there, trying to make sure that that this is what you describe as a development without displacement.
You can't escape AAP without a conscience.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Hey, so so Larry Ludinger calls you and said, "Hey, I'd like you to consider supporting the Jazz in the City that's happening this week, 6 to 9, Thursday, Juneteenth, with the Brown Skin Band with a full-on concert, and before that, there'll be the One Accord line dance group. You can get your boots on the ground and get your fans ready for the pregame. But what was it about this that you decided that you're going to put your money where your mouth is?
I think this is just the beginning. Beyond thinking it, I know it's just the beginning. We want that area, that neighborhood. I mean, if you drive around the neighborhood, there are families that live there.
Yeah.
And it will benefit all of us to change what people perceive as Parkside, what should be happening there. We have to get rid of the negativity. And when the idea came in, I thought it was a wonderful idea. The fact that he's done it all over the city, everyone really needs to think about Parkside in a different way. Parkside is where these things will happen regularly going forward.
All right. So, right. Yeah. And we thank you for that. Again, Juneteenth Day, June 19th, 6 to 9 p.m., 2100 East Fayette Street, Boys and Girls Club, right across from Parkside Common. Ernst Valery and his partners are making this happen. All right. Lastly, unless there's something else you want to tell us, as a Cornellian, if you will, if there's one thing you'd like the people of Syracuse to know about you or your commitment to Parkside Commons, anything else you want them to know about you and your commitment?
New York, Central New York, is special to me. I went to school there, obviously, and even in Ithaca, when we wanted to get out to the big city, we came to the Carousel Mall. In high school, I played football, and the big thing was to play the state championship in the Carrier Dome back in the day.
Yes.
So, I want the folks in Syracuse to know that we are developers that think about community, and we are developers that are here to serve, and we're here to serve the city of Syracuse. We're here to be good partners. We're here to implement and to do the hard work. We want to be held accountable. We want everyone to be held accountable. And starting with this project, but we want to grow in New York, in particular, Central New York, Western New York. New York, the state is just very important to me. I spent the last 19 years living in Baltimore, and there was something about needing to come back home, right? So after 19 years, I moved back. As far as I've gone in life, I moved back into my parents' house. And like the only difference is I don't sleep in my room anymore. I sleep in like my parents' room. And in this state, we are fully committed. SAA, EVI, BFC partners, we are fully committed to this state. There's a lot of challenges ahead, right? This housing crisis is only going to get worse. And then the quality of housing and the quality of community placemaking, that's also, even in places that aren't necessarily dealing with, the price tag on the home, the quality of it. And I want New York State to lead in that. And so it starts with places like Syracuse. Syracuse is an incredibly important place for the state. And we're going to be here for you, and we're approachable, right? It's we want to have the conversations. We don't have all the answers, but we're willing to listen. We're willing to be thought partners, and what we do well is we execute. And when we say we're going to do something, we do it. And so we're going to execute on this project, and we're going to be good partners. And together, we're going to solve this housing crisis the best way we can. And I think New York State can lead in that. And that's why I came back home to lead in that, because our entire country needs it. Cities all over that are, really suffering. And that means there are people that are suffering. And it tends to be, I don't know, I'll throw some facts out, less than 2% of the people that do development, real estate development, look like me or are female and
less
gender
than 2%
combined.
Okay.
Less than 2%.
Wow.
Less than 2%. And so when we think about the movements that we've had in this country since COVID, the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matters movement, things that were happening and what's happening now,
start right there. You have a fund that does what?
So we have the Equal Fund in our foundation, and it's dedicated to getting more Black and Brown and women involved in development, and then the foundation side, educating them. So we have an established scholarship at Columbia. If you study real estate at Columbia, you can get an Equal Foundation scholarship. We have a scholarship established at Cornell, and the goal is to establish them at universities in all the cities that we serve. But our real goal is to really change housing so that we don't have kind of like projects. It's who gets to develop, what we develop, how we develop it, but also who gets to develop. It's a shame that only 2% or less than 2% of the developers out there that are doing things at a high level are Black and Brown and women combined. So that's our main goal.
Is to get more of Black and Brown in the game.
And, when people get established, they think, well, only I can do it. When we got established, we thought of how hard it was for us to get in. And so we're trying to, lay the groundwork for others to be able to come in a lot easier.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
We really have to think about how far have we actually come when less than 2% do it. And then, in terms of housing, I think we can do a better job, and we can do a better job together. And New York State is prime for that. The state has done its job. They've put the capital out there. They've got an incredible state agency that does this. We wouldn't think of doing it anywhere else. We think this is a place where we solve it, and we could be a model for the rest of the country. So I want Syracuse to know that, we're here and we're ready to serve.
Ernst Valery is the president and co-managing member of SAA EVI, part of the joint venture with BFC that's purchased the Parkside Commons. We're going to be watching closely to see how you will make a difference, because it's clear from your work and from your words that it's about more than bricks and mortar. It's about people, neighborhoods, and future. So we want to thank you for your vision, and thank you for being a part of George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation.
Thank you, Mr. Kilpatrick.
Inspiration for the Nation.